Right. Good morning once more for those of you guys who just joined. Today we're talking about auto prospecting. This is where we'll set up our client on a listing alert feed, and we can set the frequency and the time of when they get those listings sent to them. So we're going to cover that from top to bottom today, starting with creating a new contact. I'll walk you through where to go into the MLS to create that new contact. And then what I want to do is I want to walk you guys through how to set this contact up on what's called the client portal. This is such a wonderful dynamic web page that's customized specifically for your client. It's going to allow them to sort those properties that you send them into buckets, if you will, the ones that they like, the ones that they dislike, etc. We'll also talk about the prospect cart on the agent end, how to manage that. We'll go into our Manage Contacts tab, and I'll show you guys how to create and manage your contacts. And in conjunction with that, we'll also talk about managing groups. High level, bear in mind when we get there, your groups in the system are essentially just virtual file folders to organize your contacts. Okay, but we'll get in there and we'll talk about that near the end of training. And then at the end of training too, I love to go over those time-saving preferences as well with you guys. So if we have a few minutes near the end, I'll cover the preferences that tie into auto prospecting today, some items to let the system work with you and help save you some time. Okay. All right, so you guys are a quiet bunch. I hope you guys can all hear me okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just jump right on in, you guys, today to where we're going to start off. And you'll notice I'm right in the Prospector Plus system. I've just gotten there from my MLS dashboard today. And this is a system where, it's the bread and butter of our jobs. It's the MLS. It's where we get to search for properties, we get to list our properties, and of course, where we can manage our contacts to set them up for auto prospecting. Thank you, Lillian. I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys can hear me. All right, so first steps here is we're going to go into our contacts tab from the Prospector Plus system. So I've got my mouse hovered over it. It's in a light gray color. It reads contacts. The very first place we'll visit today is our contacts/prospects tab. And then later in the training, I'll show you how to manage groups. I typically end with this. It's short, sweet, and to the point. So step one is to visit your contacts/prospects. And this is where we're gonna check out what we're looking at here before we go in to create this new contact today. So this page, you guys, think about this as I always refer to it as a light CRM, if you will. It's where you can keep your contacts here in the MLS. Now, we'll go over this page in detail, what all the buttons and the numbers do and where they take us. But first steps first today, let's go ahead and just go right on in to create new contact. Again, I've just gone into the MLS, contacts/prospects is where I am, and I'm just gonna click on create new contact. All right. Now, today we're going to have a little fun. We're going to make a fake contact for the sake of this training example, but contact name is read and required. This is where, of course, you'll place your contact name. Today we'll have a little fun. We'll have a big spender client today. How about Jim Carrey? He always makes me laugh. All right, the next step here you'll see it's reading status and it's displaying as active. We're going to go ahead and leave Mr. Jim Carrey today as active because he's an active buyer. Now, I want to click on this buyer option here. I just want to point out the cool thing about creating a new contact in the MLS, you guys, is it's pretty versatile. You don't always have to come in here to create a contact for a buyer set up on auto prospecting like we're doing today. You can leverage this form for seller information, for vendor information, or really anyone else that you just need to keep their contact information handy here in the MLS. But again, today we're going to stick with status of active buyer for Mr. Jim Carrey. Now, I spoke earlier about how I will wrap up with some time-saving preferences at the end of class. And one of those preferences that you'll notice here that I've set that you probably don't have checked is to manage as prospect. So this checks default every time for me. And what this does is it opens up this contact form, you guys. I'm just going to scroll down a hair here for some prospect options. If I do not have this box checked, we've got a simple contact form here, again, where we can plug in any seller, vendor, or other information. So big rule of thumb today for auto prospecting, do be sure your manage as prospect is checked. If you find that you're coming in all the time to the MLS to just manage prospects, I'm going to show you how to get this box checked by default like mine every time at the end of training. So hang tight on that. Now, name on reports is the next checkbox, and I always check this, you guys, It's a simple checkbox, and it's going to place your client's name on the reports, or in this case, the client portal, which we're going to set our client up on today. Just makes them feel special, and it's just a little checkbox on our end. Next line here is the company name. Hey, remember, this could be for a vendor as well, but since we're doing auto prospecting today, maybe Mr. Jim Carrey tells you he's an actor. You can plug in his company name, his job title, whatever is going to help you guys relate best to your client when you come in here. Street address, city, state, and zip, definitely plug that in. Of course, if your new prospect gives this information to you, it's going to be handy to have in the future. I'm going to keep scrolling down here. Display as. You can display as the system default here, which is what I choose to do, last name first, or you could do first name first. Totally your call. You guys, this is just how they're going to display in that previous screen we were just in, where you saw all of my contacts at a glance. All right, the next category here is groups. I'm just going to delete this group, and I want to show you how to add in a group. As you can see, it's red, meaning it is required. Remember that groups are just your virtual file folders. This is how you're going to organize your clients. Now, by default, you're given a few groups here, so I'm going to show you those today by clicking on the paper with a magnifying glass. That's how we're going to get our group input. And you'll see a few extra groups in mine today. I'll show you how to make these again near the end of the training. But just to move forward, you have a few default groups. Those are prospects, clients, vendors, personal, and other. And today I'll show you how to make some other groups as well throughout the training. But let's go ahead and just say, hey, today my client is a prospect, and I'll put them in a custom group that I made because I love to put my clients in the group or the year group that I work with them. I find that's really handy to go back and reference later if I need to. Minimum of 1 group is required. I did 2 today. We're going to click OK. And now my client will be placed in these groups on the previous page we were just in. So again, I'll show you how that looks. But big rule of thumb is just 1 group to move forward, and you have those default groups I pointed out. All right, the next category here is email. Now, of course, we know that if we set up our client on these listing alert feeds, they're getting an email notification. So it's super duper important that we get their email address plugged in here. Today, again, I'm going to show you the client and agent side of things. So we'll have a little fun. I'll put my work email in here so you can see what it looks like. But do be sure you're putting your client's email here. This is where they will be receiving those alerts. So whichever email they opt to give you for that, go ahead and plug that in here. If there's a friend, a family member, perhaps, or a partner that wants to be added in here, you can absolutely add their email CC here, and they will be updated at the same time that the primary email contact is updated. There's an alternate email specifically for your reference. No outbound emails will be sent from this alternate email category. So maybe your client gives you a business email or something that they want you to have, but they don't want those alerts going there. You can plug it in again for your reference. If they give you a web page, again, plug it in if you'd like to keep tabs on your client and just more information to relate to them, the better, right? Get their phone number plugged in. Hopefully they give that to you. Okay, we'll just do a fun one today. Now, initial contact date. I love this. This is a nice place to just keep tabs on when you first met your client. We'll say today for this example. If they give you their birth date, another great place to plug in their birth date so you can be reminded of that when you visit the contact. And you can also put a closing date, of course, when hopefully they buy the home that they found via auto prospecting. In the notes category here, you have, gosh, 1,500 characters, so quite a bit of space to talk about maybe your client's likes and dislikes, their wants and needs, maybe their pets' names or their kids' names, right? Just again, helping you relate better to your client. This is your playground to plug in whatever notes you would like to reference specific to this client. Okay, so we just covered the first portion of creating our new contact, but remember, since we've chosen to manage this contact as a prospect, we have all these prospect options below. So that opens up our page to talk about these auto prospecting options. The first box you'll check here, auto prospecting. We want to check this. We want to make sure that these categories aren't grayed out and that we can actually access them. So let's go ahead and enable auto prospecting and check that box. Okay. Now, once you check auto prospecting, right away, you'll be greeted with a scheduler. I'm going to talk to you guys about the different frequencies that you have, but truly many of our clients will be, especially in this market, right? They're going to be wanting an immediate update on those listings that become available in their criteria. So we'll talk about frequency. As far as the start and the end date, it starts at the today's date. It ends default out a year, but you can always adjust these accordingly, however you would like. And then frequency, as I pointed out before, immediately is pre-populating here for me. This is something I set in my preferences, you guys, because most of my clients, I find most of them want those listing updates right away. However, the system default is daily. Now, daily could be a great option if your client has a very prolific search criteria, meaning that they're getting, gosh, maybe 100 listings in their email inbox every day because their criteria is too broad. A daily update's a nice, gentle way to send them those updates. You could also send weekly updates. I love this option. Maybe for an investor client, you want to just send them a Monday morning update of what's occurred in their search criteria. You absolutely can do that. You can even customize the specific days of the week down to the hour or the time that the email sent in the weekly frequency. And monthly, hey, of course, today we're talking about those buyers that are hot and ready to go. So monthly feed is not going to be conducive to our hot and ready buyer. But let's think outside of the box. You guys, I have a marketing background and I always am trying to think of how I can leverage the system that we have to maybe market. And what a good idea if you have a seller, or excuse me, a buyer who just purchased a home with you. Maybe you offer them to send them a monthly or quarterly update on those listings that pended or closed in their neighborhood they just purchased in, right? They're getting to see the equity in their home. They're also getting to see who their new neighbors are going to be. And not to mention, you're gently staying in front of them as their agent. I thought this was so clever and is something that can benefit both of you guys, agent and buyer. Okay, so again, today I gave you some ideas on frequency moving forward, but let's stick with immediately, especially with our market. We want to get those listings right to our client as soon as they're available. I'm going to click save and click OK. All right, that takes us back on over to the email preferences for prospecting. The first preference we have here is for the agent. So for us, we have 3 options as far as email notifications. Remember that we set our client up just recently on an immediate feed. So I can have a choice to not receive any updates. I could receive a daily summary of what my client has been sent. Remember that immediate update that my client's receiving. I can get a little daily check-in, if you will, of what my client has been sent. And then I can use the prospect schedule if I choose to do this. Remember, every time my client gets an email, so do I. So many of you guys tell me, because you have a lot of clients set up on auto prospecting typically, a daily summary is a nice, safe spot, if you will, to not clog up your email inbox with a bunch of prospect listings. Now, we'll revisit the updates in just a sec. Let's come down to the prospect. This is a no-brainer. It's super duper easy here. We're going to just select, yeah, newly matched. We want them to receive those emails, right? Now, as far as updates go, this is your playground here. So I'll give you some ideas. For the agent, I love to see all of the updates, price changes, status changes, and yes, I even want to see those updates on rejected listings my client rejected. Maybe because price was too high, maybe there was a price reduction. I can see that and swoop in and let them know. Now, as far as your client goes, I love to show them those price changes and the status changes. That's keeping them in the loop, what the market's doing, right? The market's going to be moving. It's helpful for them to see those status and price changes. I'll leave it up to you guys on if you want to send them rejected listing updates. Okay, so I hope that all makes sense. We're going to come on down here to the client portal portion. I'm going to skip over the email category because we are going to opt today to use the client portal. So instead of my client getting an individual email with listing updates, they're going to receive a listing update link where they can view those updates in their web page or their client portal, as we refer to it here. I love this option, you guys. I was a former buyer years back before the portal was a thing, and I have to tell you, it's so much easier now. Instead of, from a buyer's perspective, instead of having 20 different emails with listings that you can't figure out which one you liked and you didn't like, and this is just such a better way to clearly display those listings in the client portal. So I'm going to check this box. And we're definitely going to look at the client portal. So I know you guys are excited to see it. I'll definitely show it to you in just a bit. Now, one of the cool things about the client portal, remember, it's a web page. It's branded to you guys as the agent. It's specialized for your client, and it gives them a link to search, to create their own search. This is so great because what am I doing? I'm having my client stick in my branded portal to search the MLS. I'm giving them a nice ticket into the MLS data, and it keeps them off those public sites, right? So leave this box checked. I could give you 100 reasons why, but it will be checked by default. Allow your clients to create that search in the portal if they opt to. It's a nice touch. All right, coming on down here to cart maintenance. Your cart maintenance portion is basically saying everything that I've checked here are what my clients will see status-wise in the portal. Okay, so in a minute, we're going to set our client up on a search, likely for mostly active listings. Knowing our market, things are going to change very quickly. And all of these boxes that I've checked here are signifying that my client will see these listings if they change to a specific status that's checked in the portal. So in this case, if you're my client, Jim Carey, and I have a bunch of active listings in there, I go in 2 days later, some of those have changed to contingent show or pending bring backup, I will see them. The holds, the contingent no-shows, the expireds, those just simply will disappear from my portal because my agent hasn't checked those boxes. Okay, so again, anything you have checked here is what your client will see status-wise in the portal. All right, moving on down here, reverse prospecting. This is such a fun topic to cover when we're talking about setting up a buyer. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to uncheck this box because do bear in mind, I've got a very fake buyer in here for an example for us today. Reverse prospecting is an actual option here. You can add your buyer, only their search criteria, if you will, to a reverse prospecting database, and it's actually under the contacts tab. Some selling agents like to use this to maybe search for folks who are looking for something that their listing offers. The cool thing is if someone does run a reverse prospecting search, the agent will not see the client information. They'll only see your information, so they can contact you and say, hey, Kristen, I have a client that looks like they're looking for the same exact thing that my listing has. Let's make a deal. Okay. So reverse prospecting is really a nice tool, again, for selling agents to explore buyers, and it's under contacts, reverse prospecting. There's a short video in the upper right corner if you want to dive a bit deeper on this after the training today. All right, and last but not least, you can opt to get alerts in the client portal. So if your client's active in the client portal, emails will be sent the first time they access the portal, and anytime they view a listing, they save or reject a listing, save a new search, or add comments to one or more listings. So you can choose to have email notifications on activity by checking this box here. You have hourly or once a day are your frequencies. I like once a day. Again, it's a sweet spot for me. And there are manual ways as well, everyone, to check their activity. So if you opt to not receive yet another email, I'll show you the other ways that you can check your client's activity in the portal as well. Okay, so let's scroll on up, you guys. I know we talked about a bit here. This is that step-by-step process I was telling you about. Once you get this down, it's a walk in the park. Make sure when you come up to the top of the screen, the email is correct. Their name, of course, is spelled right. And if everything looks good to go, you're going to save in the upper left-hand corner here. Now, once I save, immediately I'm going to start my client search. Now, there are a multitude of different searches we can leverage here today. Today, I'll stick within the standard search since it's the one we're most familiar with. But I do get asked, Kristen, can I start a map search in a subdivision and send my clients those listings in that subdivision? Absolutely. Again, there are all of these searches you can leverage for your client, but today we'll stick with the standard search. Now, as far as the search name goes, I always recommend keep it simple, short, and sweet here. Don't go into detail with the client or with search criteria, for example, 3-bed, 2-bath with a pool in Rockland under 5K. That's just more work for you guys. So keep it simple. We'll just call it Rockland because right below in the client portal, my client will see the criteria directly below that. So let's keep the search name short, sweet, and simple, and then click on submit, upper left-hand corner. Okay, so this should look fairly familiar to us. This is a standard search form, and this is a little different because we've linked it to our prospect. Okay, now let's have a little fun search today. We'll do residential, single family residence, my client Jim Carey is looking in Rockland, and I know he wants at least 4 bedrooms. So I'm going to leave it 4 and then leave the through blank. Maybe I'll find him a 5-bedroom home. Okay, now this is where you'll come in and of course enter your client's criteria in more detail. Today we'll keep it short and sweet for the example. Let's do a preview count before we go in to view these results. I want to see 43 listings. That seems about right for what I just searched for. I like that. Now, occasionally when I'm here, I am asked how many listings should I be sending my client initially. Bear in mind, you guys, it's going to depend on your client search criteria, right? In addition to that, just also bear in mind that the first time you send them these listings, that's the time that they're going to be going through quite a few. So if you send them over 45, send them 100 or 200, that might be a lot for them. So be mindful. But again, it depends on your client's criteria. I think this is a beautiful amount of properties just to send them right out of the gate. So view results or search, both will take me to the exact same place. Whatever you're most comfortable with, go ahead and click it. This is your one opportunity to go back and revise criteria. It's not as easy to revise criteria in an auto prospecting search as it is in another search. So do be careful when you're here. Make sure that these 43 listings look ready to rock and roll and you're ready to go. Let's add those listings to the prospect cart. Great. So right away, behind this email invitation screen, this is the prospect cart here, and we're going to talk about this in just a minute. But the first thing that I need to do in order to get my client access to these listings is I need to send them the invitation to their portal with all these listings in this hyperlink. Make sure you've got your subject line typed in. This is a default of mine, you guys. Again, we'll talk about this at the end of training if we have a few minutes. And then I've also typed in a default body. Your listings that meet your criteria are now ready to view. Above that, that little checkbox, prepared exclusively for Jim Carey. That was just that checkbox we checked in the client information page. Everything looks good to go here. You guys can edit this if you'd like. Just whatever you do, don't delete this link. That's important. That's their ticket into the portal. All right, so I can send now or send later. I'm going to choose send now. Okay, and in a minute, we'll go in and we'll actually view the portal as the client, but let's check out the prospect cart and how we can manage this here. So you'll notice all of my properties I'm viewing in what's called the one-line grid display. Yours might look a bit different than mine. That's absolutely okay. One thing I want to show you before we move in to maybe commenting or moving items into folders is you'll notice my initial tab here I have is my newly matched listings. I have 43 of them. Then I have these additional tabs, agent recommended. I'm going to show you how to put properties in here. I have this saved tab. These are where your client will save their properties and where they will appear. I have a client rejected tab. Again, all the rejected listings your client rejects will be placed into this folder. And I also have an agent rejected tab, which allows me to remove any listings that I see here that I know maybe just won't fit my client's criteria. Maybe they just don't like the style of the exterior style of the home. I can reject those listings here and those will not be visible to my client. However, I can see all of these tabs as the agent. And a good suggestion here is, I get asked this pretty frequently, how do you empty the client rejected tab? We kind of look at this like it's a, it's an email inbox and these are the rejected listings. Our client doesn't want them. How do we get them out? Well, there is an option to remove listings here, but please bear in mind, if you remove listings that were previously in your client's search criteria, what's going to happen? They're probably going to go right on back into that newly matched listing, right? So be mindful of that. My best rule of thumb here, I always suggest you guys just leave the saved, leave the rejected as your client adds them in, okay? Now, some cool things we can do here. We can move properties into an agent recommended tab, the ones that we know my client is gonna love, love, love. So to do that, I'm gonna uncheck all of these listings on this page and I'm just gonna select maybe 1 or 2 here to agent recommend. Let's do these 2. And what I'm gonna do once I've checked them is I will click on move. My mouse is kind of circling around. It's a dark gray button here. It says move. I'm going to take these 2 listings by clicking on move and I'm going to put them into the agent recommended tab by clicking on recommended. There we go. So now we have 41 listings in our newly matched, 2 in our agent recommended, and we're good to go. Another way I can get a property right in front of my client. I love this option. If you know they're absolutely going to love this listing, it's really special, it's something that you want them to see right away. If you look at my mouse, it's to the right below the listing number here, and you guys are going to see only this option here. You won't see a pencil unless this is your listing, but you'll see this open envelope. It kind of looks like an inbox. If you give this a click, you can comment on listings, and these are what are going to show up right away when they enter that portal, kind of like the broadcast messages you guys get when you log into Prospector Plus sometimes, right? So this is a nice way to get in front of your client. Hey, check out this kitchen. Maybe they really want a great kitchen. Okay, and I'm such a bad public typer, so post. All right, now I'm going to show you what that will look like in just a moment when we get into the portal, so hang tight with me. A couple of other things we can do here in the prospect cart. There will come a time when listings will start to change in status, right? Right now we're all active. Of course, we just did this search. But as listings change in status, remember, I've only opted to show my client the contingent show and pending bring backup statuses in the portal because I've only checked those boxes in the previous screen. So there's a button at the upper right-hand corner of my screen. It says show hidden listings. It kind of looks like a half cut in half eyeball. It's so teeny tiny. But if you give this a click, it's going to show you any listings that perhaps changed in status. So if your client says, hey, there was this listing off of Cheetah Street. I absolutely loved it, Kristen. What happened to it? You can come into your show hidden listings and maybe let them know, oh, it looks like it just closed a couple days back, right? So it puts them all in that little convenient bucket, if you will, only viewable by us. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch gears. We're going to check out the client portal now. If you guys don't have any questions on the prospect cart, I will also revisit this prospect cart throughout the training today and show you how to get back to here as well. So if you guys are ready, let's switch gears. Let's check out what the client portal looks like. I'm just going to go into my email real quick and we'll pull up that email. Bear with me. It looks like I got a couple emails while we were in the training. All right, here we go. So I'm going to be the client again. I'm coming in and I'm entering this client portal that my agent lovingly set up for me. I'm really excited. I'm going to check out all these listings by clicking on view listings. Right away, what do I see? That comment on that specific listing off of Desert Mallow Street. As the client, I can comment right back. I can click on this listing and I can look at the photos real quick. Or I can just say, hey, it sounds great. When can we look? Or when can we schedule a showing? Post comment. Okay. Your client will send the comment. You will receive it right away via email. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Now, let's check out the portal. The upper left corner is my agent branding. I'm branded. My client can click on my name and access my information here. It's prepared exclusively for Jim Carrey, right? So it makes it extra special for our client. Now we're going to click on My Listings, and this is where they actually have this nice place where they can save, they can reject listings, and they can see the ones that I've recommended as well. So at the top, I have 41 newly matched listings. Looks a little different than the prospect cart, right? A little more client friendly. I have my 2 agent recommended listings. I have to hover over this to engage the color. So maybe tell your clients if you put something in there, let them know. Saved and rejected. So I can come in as the client and I can start to reject and save. Okay. And I'll just show you how quickly and easily we can do this. Just save, save, save. We'll come in, reject a couple too. All right. Now the other cool thing is, you guys, is I have all of the access to not only at a glance the property details, so the basic details like the listing number, price, square footage, beds, baths, etc. But I also can open up into a full detail page. So let's do that on this listing here off at Annabelle Court. All right, so this is a client-friendly listing detail page. It'll look a little different than what we see in the MLS, but it opens up into additional details. They can scroll through their photos of the property. They can see any directions to property, all of the general property information. Looks like this one has association information. Okay, and at the very bottom, there's even a mortgage calculator that they could use if they'd like. Pretty cool. I noticed someone raised their hand. Apologies if it's been up for a second. Just go ahead and put your question right into the box for me. I would so appreciate it. And if you put your hand up by accident, that's okay too. I do it all the time. All right, back to my listings, you guys. I just wanted to point out how quick and easy your client can really scroll through all of these listings, right? And now they have their convenient buckets at the top of the list that allow them to see. Sorry, excuse my scrolling here. But agent recommended, saved, and rejected. We filled a couple of them up. Okay, now maybe my client comes in and says, hey, I might think I could get a little more bang for my buck in Roseville. I'm going to create my own search here in Roseville. Remember, I've allowed my client to create a search here in the MLS. This is so special, you guys. You're branded here. You're keeping them off of those third-party web pages where they're going to reach out to another agent that might perchance pick up their phone quicker than you can, right? So this is such a great tool for them. They can come in and you'll notice the search form looks a little different, but still very client-friendly. They can come in and search by areas, districts. Hey, there's even a cities category here. Maybe they just want to type in Roseville real quick. Okay, perfect. We'll search Roseville. Click OK. And again, we could put in a price. Maybe this client wants to look everything $750 and above because, hey, it's Jim Carrey. He's a big spender. And they can preview count the search. And right away, they've created their own search. Again, not on Zillow. I love it. Maybe they name this one Roseville. Keep it short and simple, right? Okay. Now I can come in through here as the client and I can see my specific searches. I have my Roseville search I've created. I have my agent search that my agent created, and look directly below the search name. There's that criteria again. So name your search something short and sweet. Keep it easy for yourselves. And the client can go through either of these. They could even edit or delete their own search. They cannot edit or delete your search that you created as the agent. And Manny, I will absolutely show you how to post a comment on the prospect in just a moment. We'll get out of the screen and I'll show you. Contact agent, same idea. If they click your agent information in the upper left corner, they've got your MetroList agent profile here. So be sure that's updated and your clients can leverage this to contact you. There is a help tab as well. In the years I've trained you guys on auto prospecting and the client portal, I have not received really any questions actually on how to use the portal from maybe an agent saying, hey, my client can't figure it out. That tells me it's super intuitive, it's easy to use, but there is a help tab, video tutorials, frequently asked questions, screenshots, etc. They can access this if they maybe are a DIY type of person, they don't want to call you. Pretty cool. Okay, you guys, so that's the client portal. Again, I wanted to show you from the client side of things what it looks like, what your client will be seeing. I think it's a nice way to kind of know what you're putting out there for your clients. Now, since we're taking it back into the prospect cart, Manny asked a great question. He asked, how can you post a comment for the prospect? So how we did previously, we were in this prospect cart screen, and what I did, Manny, was I clicked on this envelope. And if you hover over it, it says view or add comments. And this is where you can open up this screen here and type in any comment that you'd like. Check this listing out. Put a smiley face because it's Monday. Okay. All right, guys, let's take it out of the prospect cart. Again, I'm going to come back here in just a moment to show you how to get back. But right now I want to go back into the contacts/prospects tab. Okay. All right, so here's what we're looking at on this page. I'd love to cover with you what all these buttons do, where they take us. You'll notice here I've got my client, Jim Carrey. Now he's in the 2021 group. Remember, I put him in previously when we set him up, but if you perchance can't see one of your buyers, I always like to use the all active option. Otherwise, sometimes it'll sort into groups for you. Now, to the left of his name, there's a plus sign. Believe it or not, it's a plus sign in a circle, teeny, teeny, tiny. If you give it a click, that's going to open up the client searches. So here's my Rockland search I created. Here's my Roseville search my client created here. Now I can run these searches. I can revise criteria in these searches. I could view the criteria and even delete a search if need be. I'm going to minimize this again by clicking on that little tiny minus sign. Now, if I click right onto Mr. Jim Carrey's name, that's going to take me right into the contact form we were in at the beginning of this training. We'll go in there in just a moment. If I click on the I, that's going to pop up additional information. Remember, this is your landing page for all of your contacts and all of your prospects. So it's just a quick way to get maybe their email pulled up. The paper with the plus sign, if I hover over this, it says create new search. So many of you guys do ask me, how do I create a new search for my client in the portal? Here's how you do it. You'll click on create new search and it will add that search into the rotating searches that you have set up for your client. Okay. Now, getting back to the prospect cart, this is another big question that I receive. How do I get back to the prospect cart? Well, here we are over the prospect cart category, and you see a bunch of different numbers per each contact because every contact has different amounts of properties in their cart. Mr. Jim Carrey has 65 newly matched listings. He has 2 agent recommended, 2 saved listings, and 2 rejected listings. There are 0 listings in the agent rejected folder. Again, this is a folder only myself can see. My client won't see these. And I can even get to those hidden listings very quickly from here as well. There's that eyeball I showed you earlier. All right, so getting back to the prospect card, if I click on the 65, that takes me into the newly matched tab, and I can come back in here and I can see, well, look, we've got a lot of status changes already. My goodness, just in the short amount of time we did this training. Pretty interesting, huh? It's a very fast moving market. Now, when I'm in here, a couple of things I want to show you before I went squirrel on the statuses. Let's go ahead and click on Client Portal here at the top of this page. You'll notice that I have a few buttons. I can preview what the portal looks like. So today I chose to email myself and actually show you pretending to be the client. But if you want to preview what the portal looks like, you can do it here as well. You can also view their activity in the portal. And if for some reason they didn't receive the invitation, you can come back here to resend it. Now, if I click on the activity for the portal, it's going to pull up an activity feed. It looks similar to the portal, but it's only for agents. I'll show you on another screen because there's yet another way to check activity per each client as well. All right, so again, I got to this client portal options window by accessing the prospect cart for the specific client and then clicking client portal. Okay. All right, back to the contacts prospects tab. A couple more buttons to talk about. This will let me know when the invitation was sent. So if for some reason you're not getting any response, you can reference this to be sure that it has been sent out. The activity feed is yet another place I could come here. You can see I've got a nice rainbow of colors. I've got some green, I've got some orange or yellow, and some red. The green activity button is telling me that my client's been active in the portal within the last 6 days. The red is saying, well, they haven't been in about a week to 30 days, or I'm sorry, the yellow, and the red is 31 plus, so meaning they're probably not very active in the portal. I can click on this color-coded button here and it will actually take me to that activity feed I pointed out earlier. You can see when the client opens the portal, when they save or reject listings, make comments on any listings, how many times they viewed specific listings. You can even see all of their searches at the top here. You can turn them on or off. You can run, that's that play button. Revise is the pencil, or view criteria, the magnifying glass. There's your delete search button, the big red X. And then there's a running stream of comments on properties here. You can see I've got a couple properties we commented on, so I can see those. And then I can even access some settings. I could disable the portal, but I hope you guys love it as much as I do. It's such a cool tool. And I can even change my email activity feed for the portal. Remember, that was the last checkbox we set up when we set up our client. Maybe I know now, hey, Kristen showed me a couple of different ways to check client portal activity. I'm just going to turn off that additional email update, right? All right. So again, I got to the client activity by clicking on this color-coded key here. I could have done it through the portal as well. Here's their phone number. I can send them an email. This will just open up my default email client, which is Outlook. I can see any tasks. These are view emails sent from prospect cart. These buttons, by the way, they don't all tie into auto prospecting, but I know it's helpful just to understand what they all do. The CMA button is if you've created a client CMA within Prospector. There's a buyer's closing and a seller's net sheet here as well. Okay. Again, not all these items tie into auto prospecting, so a little bonus today. It just helps to know what you're looking at in general. Okay, now let's go ahead and say Mr. Jim Carey today, he found his home, he absolutely loves it, he put an offer down and everything looks good, we're in escrow. I need to turn him off of those listing feeds, those listing alerts. So I'm going to go ahead and click on his name to go back into the contact/prospects setup page here for this client. Once it loads on up, I'm going to inactivate this client. Remember before he was active? Let me reload this page. Maybe it's just being a little slow today. Oh, we're having an error. Nothing like finding an error right in the middle of a live training, right, guys? Thanks for bearing with me. We'll try one more time. You're getting the same issue. Well, I think we just found a bug. This is why I love doing these trainings, because unless we use it, we don't know. So I'll definitely report that into our technical team after I run a few more tests to be sure there's something going on. But you guys, in order to inactivate your client, if you just use your imagination with me here, when we set up our client, oh, here we go. When we set up our client, we had the active tab selected, right? We want to choose status inactive. That way they're inactive, they're not receiving any live updates. We've turned their searching off. Now I'm going to give it a save, and that will just put them into the inactive category of my clients. Now, you can unfriend your clients as well. There is a delete button, but hey, save them, but put them in the inactive tab. You never know. You might work with them in the future, right? So now he's out of my active tab. He's now in inactive. We can see him here if this page loads up. There he is. Going to be down at the bottom. Okay, so these are all the folks who are not actively receiving auto prospecting updates. All right, cool, guys. Let's go over managing groups, and we do have time for those preferences, so let's go ahead and jump right into managing groups. Remember, groups are those virtual file folders that you can organize clients in and out of. You don't have to create additional groups if you do not want to. You have some system defaulted groups, but if you opt to do that today, like I have, let me show you how to do that. So under the Contacts tab, we're currently in Contacts/Prospects. Let's go ahead and visit the Manage Groups page. Okay. So here are all the default groups: prospects, clients, vendors, personal, and other. If you find that you're working with a bunch of buyers in a specific city, area, neighborhood, you can create a new group and put all of those people in that specific group. You can create a year group like I've done. I like to put my clients in there throughout the year that I work with. That way I can maybe circle back at the end of the year and check in with some clients that perhaps weren't ready this year, but maybe next year they will be. So there's a bunch of different ideas I'll give you for groups. Again, it's up to you. It's your playground. But once you're ready, you're going to click on Create New Group. And I can name this group, hey, maybe I have a lot of buyers I'm working with in Sun City. It's a retirement community in my area. Whoop, there you go. Buyers in Sun City, save. That way, any folks that want to be set up on a Sun City search, I'll just keep them in that folder and I can keep them all handy. Very, very creative. Love it. Okay. Now, last but not least, those time-saving preferences. I promised I would do those if we had additional time near the end of training. We absolutely do. I love showing you guys these because as you start to use the system over and over, you can have certain defaults or preferences set to save you time, and they will absolutely save you hours in your work year if you take a few minutes here to set up some preferences. They're found under the admin tab here at the top in the lighter gray color. I'm hovering over it, and we're going to click here on your preferences. These are items that we can set to allow the system to work with us. I'm just going to collapse these down here. There's quite a few of them, you guys. But today, since we specifically talked about prospecting, let's go ahead and click the plus sign next to prospecting and talk about some of these preferences that we might want to set for ourselves. All right. The first preference is auto prospecting email. This box is checked, and I would allow this box to remain checked unless you are wanting to turn everybody in your system off of auto prospecting. This is enabling auto prospecting system-wide, so definitely leave this checked. Now, scheduled auto prospecting. Remember at the beginning of training when I set up my client, I pointed out that he was set up as an immediate feed. Well, I've clicked here into modify auto prospecting frequency, and I've actually chosen immediately to pre-populate for me. Again, the system default is daily, and I just find that, a lot of my clients are wanting something more immediate. So I've chosen to adjust this and save it. Okay. Now, in the future, as I showed you in the training earlier, if I wanted to set this client to a monthly feed, I absolutely could do it. Remember, this default's just pre-populating for me, so I don't have to manually change it every time, but I can always change it if I want to. It will not be static. Okay. Now, send email to agent defaults and send email to prospect defaults. These are those defaults for those updates that you saw on my screen. And these are the boxes that will check for me by default. Again, I could come in and say, hey, maybe this client doesn't want any updates. I can uncheck them specifically for the client. Remember, these are system-wide. All right, sort prospects by, this is an easy one. Name or code. I know we're going to keep it as name. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I have too many passwords to remember as it is. Default new contacts as prospects. That was that very first checkbox when I set my client up. And I pointed out if this is not checked, it's a simple contact form, meaning you can add any information or notes you'd like about your contact, but you will not see those prospecting options below. I find that when I go in to create a new contact, 9 times out of 10, I'm doing it to set them up on auto prospecting. So I've checked this box here by default for me. I do have some pre-typed in subject line, invitation text, and update text. You guys are more than welcome to utilize what I have here. I've kept them pretty general. Subject says your newly matched properties from. I even put my agent name and my phone number in the subject line so my client can see that. Everything's spell checked and grammar checked, and it's ready to rock and roll. So I don't have to type this manually every time I send an auto prospecting invite. Love it. You guys absolutely can reference the recording too for my verbiage if you'd like. Now, the last thing I want to point out here in the defaults, and then I'll get to those questions that I saw pop up. The cart maintenance statuses, these are the defaults that I had pre-checked when I checked the client portal box. Remember, anything that you've got checked here is what your client's going to see as the statuses change in the portal. These are the ones that I choose for my business. I find these make the most sense for me, but again, yours might be different. Okay. Now that we talked about the prospecting defaults, scroll on up to the top, you guys. Give this a save. Right, so all your auto prospecting defaults will be set. Ready to rock and roll. Hopefully these will help save you time. The system will work with you a bit more easily. All right, Manny, let me see here. How do you set up your profile so clients/prospects can see your pick in the online portal? Good question. Hey, we have a few seconds. Let's cover it. I'm not going to go in grave detail today, you guys, but for those of you guys who do not have your agent profile set up in Prospector, here's where you go to do it. It's under the admin tab as well. So we are just there setting up some preferences. But if you want to get your agent photo in and get your profile jazzed up, you'll click on modify your profile to do this. And then from here, Manny, if you look at the upper left-hand corner here, kind of near the top of my left-hand corner photo, it says upload picture. You'll put your agent photo here, of course. I'm having a little fun. I put my dog in here. But get your agent photo uploaded, of course, and then any other information that you'd like to appear. This is where that profile information is appearing from your portal. Okay. All right. Anything you save or change here, do save it as well. That way, everything's ready to go. All right, guys, so what did we talk about today? We talked about from start to finish, how to set up a contact on auto prospecting. We started off on the homepage of Prospector Plus. We visited our contacts/prospects tab. I pointed out where to go to create your new contact. We went in and we talked about all the buttons and the bubbles and the pins and where they take us. We talked about how to manage the prospect cart. Remember, by clicking on the newly matched listings, it'll take you right on into the prospect cart per that client. We talked about how to inactivate clients that maybe put an offer down and they're ready to not receive any more listing updates. We talked about the inactive tab. Remember, these folks are still in my system here. I like that, but they're just not receiving updates anymore. So I can always come in here, a couple years down the line when they're ready to sell, and I can access them. Okay. All right, from there, we talked about managing groups. Remember, groups are just your virtual file folders for your clients. You can organize them and create whichever groups you like. And then we talked about some preferences at the end of class to save you some time. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stick some contact information up on the screen for our training team. You're very welcome to reach out to us via email or voicemail. We're happy to get back to you if any questions come up after class today. I'll hang out on the line with you guys too for a few minutes, and absolutely feel free to ask any questions that may have come up throughout the training today. I'm here for you guys. And if you don't have any questions, have a good week. I hope it's productive, stay safe, and I'll see you guys at the next training. Thanks so much. Take care.